Your tomato plants are dead by October. Every single year. You pull them out, you compost them, you wait 6 months, and then you start all over again. But what if you didn't have to? What if there was a plant you could put in the ground exactly once, and it would still be feeding your family 20 years from now? A plant that produces fruit during the exact months your tomatoes are dead. A plant whose fruits stay fresh for 6 months, without canning, without freezing, without doing anything at all, except keeping them cool. This plant used to grow in American backyards by the thousands. Agricultural extension offices promoted it. Farm families swore by it. Victory gardens, during World War II, included it as a staple. And then, one generation forgot it existed entirely. Not because it failed, not because something better came along. It disappeared for reasons that are genuinely fascinating. And by the end of this video, you are going to want to plant one immediately. Here is what makes this plant so extraordinary. A mature specimen produces 50 to 100 pounds of fruit every single year. Every year, from the same plant. No replanting, no starting over. Just one harvest flowing straight into the next. Think about your tomatoes for a moment. A good productive tomato gives you maybe 20 to 30 pounds in one season. Then it dies. You buy new plants next spring. You do it again and again. Over 20 years of replanting tomatoes in the same spot, you will produce roughly 500 pounds total if everything goes well. One single plant of this species, planted once, produces between 1,000 and 3,000 pounds of fruit over that same 20 years, 2 to 6 times more food. One planting, and it fruits in autumn and winter, the exact months your garden is completely empty. So what is this plant? Let's get into it. The plant is called tamarillo. You might also see it called the tree tomato. And the moment you look at a ripe one, that name makes complete sense. The fruits are elongated, smooth-skinned, and hang in beautiful clusters. Depending on the variety, they range from deep blood red to bright orange to golden yellow. They look like tomatoes decided to grow on a small tropical tree. Tamarillo is native to the Andes Mountains of South America, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Bolivia. Ancient Andean civilizations cultivated it for thousands of years before Spanish explorers arrived in the 1500s and brought it back to Europe. From there, it traveled, slowly at first, then faster. By the late 1800s, it had reached North America. By the 1920s, it was being grown across California, Florida, and the Gulf states. By the 1940s, agricultural extension offices were actively recommending it as one of the most practical perennial food plants a home gardener could grow. And then, something happened. Quietly, without announcement. Within a single generation, this plant went from common to virtually invisible in American gardens. Today, most gardeners in the United States have never heard the word tamarillo. Many assume it must be some exotic tropical fruit, impossible to grow here. Neither of those things is true, and we will get to exactly why it disappeared, because that story is genuinely interesting. But first, let's talk about what tamarillo can actually do, because the numbers are remarkable. Production begins in the second year after planting. By year 3, you are getting full harvests, 50 to 100 pounds of fruit from one plant. And the plant just keeps going. 20 years, sometimes 30. Same plant, same spot, year after year. But here is the detail that makes tamarillo genuinely unique among food plants. It fruits in autumn and winter. Your tomatoes finish in September. Your tamarillo is just warming up. In mild climates, it produces primarily from October through February, the exact window when your entire vegetable garden is bare and you are buying everything from a grocery store. In subtropical climates, tamarillo can fruit nearly year-round. And even in cooler conditions, where it's not quite perennial, it consistently outproduces tomatoes over any meaningful stretch of time. Think about what this means practically. You walk out to your garden in November. It's cold. Everything else is finished or covered. And there, on your tamarillo, clusters of ripe fruit are waiting for you. That is not a small thing. That is fresh homegrown food during the months most home gardeners don't even step outside. Now let's talk about storage, because this is where tamarillo genuinely separates itself from almost everything else you can grow. Fresh Tamarillo fruits, stored in cool conditions, a cool pantry, a root cellar, or a refrigerator, stay good for 4 to 6 months. Not 4 to 6 days. 4 to 6 months. A fresh tomato from your garden lasts 1 to 2 weeks, if you're lucky. Then it's gone. Tamarillo sits in your cool storage and stays perfect for half a year. You can harvest a massive autumn crop, store it, and be pulling fresh fruit out of your pantry well into spring. Combine the winter fruiting season with the 6-month storage window, and you have something genuinely extraordinary. Fresh homegrown fruit, available almost continuously, from a plant you put in the ground once. So what does Tamarillo actually taste like? Because flavor matters. All the production numbers in the world mean nothing if the fruit sits in your kitchen untouched. The flavor is bold, tart, and slightly sweet. There are undertones of tomato and passion fruit together, something genuinely unique that doesn't taste exactly like anything else you've ever eaten. It has character, the kind of flavor that surprises people the first time and then keeps them coming back. The skin is slightly bitter, so most people peel it first. The easiest method is 30 seconds in boiling water. The skin then slips off cleanly, revealing smooth, vibrant flesh. Deep red in red varieties, golden and translucent in yellow ones. Eaten fresh, it shines in fruit salads and salsas, where the tartness adds real brightness. But cooking is where Tamarillo truly comes alive. The tartness mellows into something rich and complex. Tamarillo sauces are outstanding. Tamarillo chutney is one of the most interesting condiments you will ever taste. It pairs beautifully with roasted meats, with cheese, with eggs at breakfast. In New Zealand, where Tamarillo is still widely grown and eaten, it appears in kitchens the way tomatoes appear in ours, as a versatile, everyday ingredient, used in everything from breakfast to dinner. They eat it simply halved, with a spoon and a little sugar. They make jam with it. They cook it into curries. They blend it into smoothies. And because you can dry Tamarillo slices, freeze them, can them into sauce, or press them into juice, a single productive plant gives you far more than you can eat fresh. You will be giving bags of Tamarillo to your neighbors. That is not a bad problem to have. So here is the question that has probably been sitting in your mind since the first minute of this video. If Tamarillo is this productive, this useful, and this well established in American gardens, how did an entire country forget it existed? The answer is not a single dramatic event. It is 4 things that happened simultaneously in the years after World War II. And together, they were enough to erase a plant from an entire nation's gardening memory within a single generation. The first was the rise of the annual seed model. Post-war America saw explosive growth in garden centers, seed companies, and suburban home gardening. The entire commercial model was built around plants you buy every spring. Tomato transplants, seed packets, year after year. A perennial food plant that you purchase exactly once and harvest from for 20 years is simply not a good business model for a garden center. Tamarillo generated one sale. Then it disappeared from the cash register forever. The second was the tomato industry boom. Enormous investment poured into developing hybrid tomatoes in the 1940s and 50s. New varieties bred for disease resistance, uniform size, shelf life. The tomato became America's garden vegetable. It had marketing. It had research. It had shelf space at every nursery in the country. Tamarillo had none of those things. No commercial industry. No breeding program. No marketing budget. It simply could not compete for attention against a product with that kind of momentum behind it. The third was climate. Tamarillo is frost-sensitive. Several unusually cold winters hit California and the southern states in the 1950s and 60s. Established Tamarillo plants died. Growers didn't replant. Nurseries that had been carrying them quietly stopped ordering new stock when demand dried up. Without nurseries selling them, new gardeners had no way to even discover they existed. And the fourth was the shift in agricultural extension priorities. After the war, extension services increasingly focused on commercial farming rather than home food production. Tamarillo had no place in commercial agriculture, so extension stopped promoting it. And without that institutional support, The knowledge faded quietly from one generation to the next until it was simply gone. None of this was dramatic. No one banned Tamarillo. No one made a decision to erase it. It simply stopped being promoted, stopped being sold, and stopped being mentioned until one generation grew up, having never heard of it. Meanwhile, in New Zealand, it became a commercial crop. It stayed common in South America. It thrived in Australia. The plant did not fail anywhere it was allowed to continue. It only disappeared in the one country with the most developed annual gardening economy. Now, the part you actually came here for. Can you grow Tamarillo? And how? Tamarillo thrives as a perennial in USDA hardiness zones 9 through 11. Florida, coastal and southern California, the Gulf Coast, southern Texas, Arizona, Hawaii. In these climates, you plant it once, and you are done. It handles the rest. In Zone 8, parts of the Pacific Northwest coast, central Texas, Georgia, parts of the Carolinas, Tamarillo can survive with some protection. Plant it against a warm south-facing wall. Mulch the base heavily before winter. Cover it during hard freeze warnings. Many Zone 8 gardeners grow it successfully this way. In colder zones, Tamarillo grows beautifully in large containers. You need at least a 15 to 20-gallon pot. Keep it outdoors during warm months and bring it in before the first frost. You lose some of the long-term perennial advantage in a container, but you still get fruit and you still get the extraordinary flavor and production that makes this plant worth growing. Tamarillo wants full sun. The more hours of direct sunlight, the better. It prefers well-draining soil. Wet feet are its enemy. Before planting, work compost into your bed and make sure drainage is excellent. Space plants 6 to 8 feet apart because they grow into substantial shrubs and they need airflow between them. Water consistently during the first year. This is when the plant is establishing its root system and it needs your attention. Once established, Tamarillo becomes considerably more self-sufficient. During dry periods, a deep watering once or twice a week keeps production strong. You can start Tamarillo from seed or from cuttings. Seeds germinate in 10 to 14 days in warm conditions. Cuttings taken in spring root within 4 to 6 weeks when treated with rooting hormone and kept in moist, well-draining mix. Cuttings give you a faster start. Seeds give you a stronger root system, long-term. Either works. Fruits are ready when they are fully colored and give slightly to gentle pressure. Cut them with a short piece of stem rather than pulling. Pulling can damage the branch and reduce next season's production. After your main harvest, do light pruning. Remove dead or damaged wood. Shape the canopy a little. Avoid heavy pruning because Tamarillo sets fruit on the current season's new growth, and cutting too aggressively costs you next year's harvest. Pests are refreshingly minimal compared to tomatoes. Aphids show up occasionally, and a soap spray handles them. Good air circulation between plants prevents the fungal issues that plague tomatoes. No staking required. No elaborate support structures. No weekly disease management. You plant it. You water it while it establishes. Then it largely takes care of itself and rewards you with decades of fruit. Where do you get one? Specialty seed companies stock Tamarillo seeds. A quick online search will turn up several reliable sources. Some specialty nurseries that focus on subtropical and unusual edibles carry plants. And once you have one established plant, Tamarillo roots so readily from cuttings that you can propagate as many as you want. Give them to neighbors. Line your property fence. Create a winter fruit hedge that produces for the next 25 years. Before you go, quick question. Had you ever heard of Tamarillo before this video? Drop yes or no in the comments right now. I am genuinely curious how many people already know this plant and how many are discovering it for the very first time today. And if you've actually grown one or eaten one, I want to hear about that too. Tamarillo, a plant that outproduces tomatoes by 2 to 6 times over its lifetime. That fruits in the exact months your garden is dead. That stores fresh for 6 months without processing. That needs to be planted exactly once and then just keeps feeding you. It was here, in American gardens, common enough that agricultural extension offices promoted it to every home gardener in California and Florida. And then, One generation, lost it. Now you know it exists. And if you're in the right climate, or even if you're not, you can bring it back. Plant it this season. Taste your first harvest in year 2. And then watch your neighbors ask, every autumn, what that beautiful tree, full of fruit, actually is. If this opened your eyes to a plant worth growing, subscribe to Famine Plant Secrets. We uncover one extraordinary forgotten plant every single week.